Hi and welcome to Down the Shed. So here we're going to be building a LED spinning clock. So I've got the front of the board here. This is just resistors, LEDs. It's very largely surface mount, so it's going to be a bit tricky. So all we're going to do basically is solder each side of these tabs, which are the LEDs and those are the resistors. We'll do one tab on each side and then basically we'll mount LEDs with it being side on. So I'll have it that way for the actual soldering. But there we go. So temperature's up to iron. Just grab a bit of solder. So quite simply, we'll give our tip a wipe, bring in some heat, bring in some solder, and there we go, just like that. So that's all we really need to do per tab. And there we go. So that's basically all of the pins one side pre-soldered. So all I have to do now is apply the component and solder it in. So we'll crack on with that in a moment. Right, so we're basically going to solder some of these resistors down. I've got a whole load of them in the tray here. 3 already on here, so we'll just place them on. Okay, so that's 3 on. I'm not going to bother worrying about whether they're the right way up or not. I'm just going to get them on there. I find just hold the component, give it a wiggle, see if the board moves, then you know if it's soldered on or not. Okay, so these tweezers are reversed. You press to open them and they shut all and cling, but you have to be careful because sometimes they ping components. Daisy, are you making guinea pig noises again? Okay, so that's a few on. So I'll finish these off. Okay, so this is the last one of the resistors going onto the small board. So that's what we've got so far. So now what I need to do is basically come up the side of the board and just solder the other side of each of those down. Give them all the reflow. I think I'll have to take a smaller soldering iron out better for this. Okay, so that's the small, or the resistor side of the small board done. So what we're looking at. Okay, so quickly, here we have one of our LEDs. As you can see, there is a green border up this end of the LED, and on the other side we have got like a T, and the leg of the T points towards the green dot. So the green part of the LED is actually the cathode or the negative. So I've got the tester on continuity. You can hear it beep. So all we do is bring the probes in each side of the LED, and there we go. So that's how to test a surface mount LED. You just want continuity because it puts out about 3 volts, and you can light the LED up. So if we didn't know the polarity, without getting close and personal and looking at it, we can just literally come in with the probes. Oh, and there we go, first hit. So that's how to test your LEDs. Right, so I've got a bunch of LEDs here to flick the iron on. Got my nice tweezers and me dangerous, let's flick them around the room tweezers, which are also slightly magnetised. That's in. We might put a dot more solder on them afterwards. So again, bring in the LED, sit it flat, slide it in, like so. That's on. And so we go. Time for number 3. Right, so I'll carry on with the rest of these. Okay, so there we have it. That's all the resistors and all the LEDs on one board, and I have tested them using the continuity on the board. Okay, so we've got a bunch of parts underneath here. So I've got the picture up on the screen, which will be with the blue sentence starting with the number 1. So basically we just want to put the short end into there. This is for reprogramming. So we'll just put a big blob, hold that in place. So I'll do this one on camera, spinning round, heat up the pin and the pad, and then bring some solder in. And it should just give us a nice solder like that. So we'll do the M1 and come back on ourselves. Put my fan on really. Okay, so the fan's running. We'll finish doing these headers. There we go, a bit West Country then. So that's that one done. Let's just put a bit more into there. Blow that a little bit. There we go. So that's the headers done. Remove your blue tack. Dab to get rid of any excess. And the headers in nicely. So that's if you want to, when you want to reprogram what's on the display. The component which mark S4 solder the side which have grind arenaceous vertical stripes to the negative left. Okay, so I'm looking at, which is basically 4 diodes here. So we want to get, I'm guessing that'll be these puppies here then. Yep, they're marked S4 and I can see the vertical lines, so you will need a really good magnifying glass or microscope for this. So if you can see the arrows there, they point to that side, and there's a little line going through the point. That's the negative. So that'll be the side that the 3 lines go to. So there we go. So we're basically going to dab some solder onto these pads, just pre-tin them. Because I've done that side, I'll try and actually solder them on left-handed. So we need to liberate these little puppies. Let's see how many they've given us. They have given us 5, so we've got a spare one. There is a dish in the helping hands base I sometimes use. I use it for the LEDs and resistors because I have so many of them. So we'll get these out one at a time. No, actually we'll get all 4 out. There we go, all 4. So they've got decent little legs to them. Let's try and get one to the camera. So you can sort of just about to see there's a decent leg sticking out. So we flick it over, get it in the 4 times magnifying glass, and then I'm going to try and solder this left-handed. So this will be interesting. Well, it's on there. Let's try and do another one. Get the component right way round. Okay, so that's 2 on. What I'll do now is solder them down completely on the other side. And then just give them a bit more on these sides. So that's 2 of the 4 diodes. I can pick that one up the right way around. Again, left-handed. As we do. So I'll solder that one on. Like so. And for number 4 ski. Again, making sure you've got your little lines to the left. Just reflow that and then solder the other side. So that's our 4 diodes on. Right, the 2 round barrel shaped diodes do have a blue band on one end. That's the negative cathode. Looking across to the basic computer monitor, which has got some of the what I showed you at the start, that's the 5V1 diode. So let's try and liberate these out, one of these out of this packet. There we go. I'll dig it out, so we've got a spare one. So basically this time we'll solder the right pad first. That's the 5V1. Then we'll pick up our component, blue side to the left, or the pointy side of the arrow with the line going across the point, and just solder this up to the end of that barrel on the diode. There we go, it's firmly connected. So then we'll just do the other side. There we go. So that's the next diode on. Right, okay, so we have a 20p and a 104 here. So we'll tin the pad, I'll do the top one. There we go. We'll introduce the component. And we'll solder this side and then we'll do the top side again. So we'll bring the soldering iron in, bring in some solder. There we go. That side's quite nicely done. And that's that 104 capacitor done. So next to it we have a 470 UF electrolytic through hole. And here we have a 470 UF 16 volt electrolytic capacitor. So the grey hash side on the board goes with the negative leg. Also long leg's always positive, and that's marked for you. So cap in. Now looking on the pictures, your cap wants to be angled over to the side of the board like so. So don't just plonk it on how you think it would go, because you'll be upset when you get it wrong. So As you can see, that's pretty much side onto the board, like so. So that's the top bit of that board done. 3 10Ks out already, so we'll actually do those first. So that'll be this one here, next to the infrared bit that's going on. At the moment I'm not doing that just yet. There we go, we're hot. So we'll grab a couple of these 10Ks. 103, 10 and 3 zeros, 10,000 ohms, 10K. Go on a bit better than that. That'll do. And again, just reflow, slide in. Clean our tip. Give that a bit of a reheat, a bit of a reheat. Oh, we've already tinned that one. There we go. Nicely done. So that's 2 10Ks on. We've got one of those floating around here at the moment. So we'll get these 20Ps out. So we need to tin those up. They go down here below the battery. Good thing with caps is they normally have the metal that goes all the way around it, so they're a lot easier to solder on. And again, nicely done. Finish them off. There we go. So that's the 2 caps there done. So there's a 104. I knew we had one somewhere hiding. So we'll come back to it. We get the IC on first. So remembering the notch on the IC, they'll have a little dot in the corner like this one. So, and the notch, or the little goalpost as I call it, is here on the picture. But that is a DS1302Z, and the chip is the point, the little dot is there. So I want that to match with the goalpost. So we'll, I'm thinking of how I'm going to do this actually. I'll have to heat one pin up and try and position it with my left hand. Not too bad. It is quite wide on those pads. I have to turn the board around to do the other side. Right, so I can just about see that in my little tiny lens. Put some clean solder and flux on. There we go, that's better. Okay, so just turn the board back. Okay, so we've still got a 10 UF up here. We've got a 10 UF down there. So I'm guessing, oh, that'll be these 2 little clear case ones, because nothing else is marked. So I've got 104 on there and 20p on there. That's one out eventually. That's both of them up. So let's get left-handed again and put that first one in place. Bit of a mess of that one. There we go, that'll do. And the other 10 UF is up there, so we'll tin the right side this time. Quite literally the right side. Get him on there. The job's a good one. So next we've got the 104 there, so we'll get that on. Now we've done the IC. That'll do. So we now have, so we'll get this battery on next. So the infrared that we're fitting on the front here, as you can see, it's got like a lighthouse or lantern pattern on it. Round front, dome and flat back. So put that in shape with the I'm going to check more pictures before, but that looks like it goes in like that. I'll get that better in video. So as you can see, it's just sort of past being flat on the board, bent over. So I'm going to check some more pictures and then we'll come back. So I'm just checked, and this infrared is absolutely fine the way it is, and as you can see, we can pretty much get to the legs just where they are like that anyway. So we'll solder it on both sides, but we can just get some solder on the top here. There we go, we're up to temperature, just to anchor it in really. There we go. So that's pretty much soldered on anyway. This infrared is actually connected underneath the board and back to front. So the minus will be the plus according to the diagram, which you can recheck at the start of the video. I might put a page in somewhere, put a cut in. the Y one is the crystal. So there's three 10Ks on the other side of the board here, and the Y one is the crystal. So we'll finish doing this and we'll turn the board over, because actually let's get the battery in. So there's two screws in there as well, I think, which are quite important. We'll just knock those off. So the battery needs to go on, I think it's this way. There's like a car clamp shape on the component, a metal bar that goes from the edge to the middle. It wants to be, the bottom of the bar wants to be the same end of the board as the infrared component here. So I'll just manipulate this in. There we go. So that'll actually be through hole, not surface mount. I'll use a bit of blue tack on there. So I'm guessing that's going to be a rechargeable. So when it is powered up, it automatically recharges that cell. So we'll just get these anchored in. And on this side of the board, we're just going to add a bit more solder to the infrared here and then snip them. So we can snip those. And solder in this battery. So plenty of solder in there. Plenty of solder in there, like so. Just snip the ends. So there's our three 10Ks, and the next to it is the crystal, and there's no polarity on the crystal. So this single component here, 103, is a 10K. Set that one down ready. I've got two more to liberate. I'll get these in. I'm blind. So I'll get that first one on, and then I'll liberate two more. Right, so another 10K, I'll do, and another 10K. Get these other sides soldered in. That's those nicely in. So the crystal, nothing written on it, probably around 12 megahertz, has no polarity. So that just wants to go in here, and then just basically pin it across like that, by the looks of it. In the pictorial Rio. Yeah, so that just solders down like so. Like so. There we are. So Y1 down here, we'll just give that a bit more of a dab. There we go. That's the other side of that crystal sorted out. So snip those off. So we've got that LED. Like I said, the board says the negative is positive, so the positive being the one on this side, where my finger is. Negatives here, positives here. So I'll double read that just to be sure, and I will put a cut here. So you should have just seen the picture for yourself, where it states the long leg of the infrared part soldered to the negative. Long leg negative, it would normally be positive, but you can see it's been soldered in and it's standing up right. So negative, positive, double check that, be sure. Positive is my left, negative is my right. So I'm going to put that in like so. Long leg in the negative. I don't know how much height I want on there, but it doesn't look like a lot in the other picture. So I'm just going to go to it just off like that. We leave a bit of leg on the other side. When we cut, we can adjust it if need be. So we've got room to wiggle. So let's just put a blob on one side for a minute, like so. Now we can cut these a bit shorter, right to about there. We can turn it over. And I think that's a pretty fair height. That's about right. That's pretty good. So we can pop this back in here and solder that other leg. Like so. I'll leave those a bit long for now. And if I need to adjust that height wise, I've got a bit of scope there. And if I need to go down, I can just go down. So that's pretty much this board complete, apart from the end piece, which will basically go in like yay. I mean, you've got two sides on here to solder. There's only four on that side, but yeah, so that'll go in like that. So I'm going to edit this part of the video and then move on to the next part of the project. So I'm just checking to make sure everything's on here. That L1 is something, but I can't see what it is right this moment. Right, that'll be one of the coils that's going on this part. So we do want some screws in here. Right, so I think these little black screws in here go in here, keys it in. There we go. So that's pretty much that board done apart from the end. So we'll put this bit to one side at the moment. I can go up there. We'll put the smaller board up to one side, up there with that, because they've got to be soldered together. We'll put the rest of these components in the little place here, just in case. And then we'll get on with this bag, which is has more components, which is another board as yet. Right, so I'm going to get on with this bag of bits shortly. Right, the two screws we set aside earlier, I think they were wrapped with the battery. They're going to come through these two holes and take this part. So that will sit on there like that with the two self-tappers, but it won't sit flat because, as you can see, there's a peg on there. So I'm suggesting that in this picture now. Right, as you can see from that picture of a finished product with the main board upside down, you'll see that this actually does look like it's flat on there. So we need to take that off. As you can see, that doesn't sit flat. So I'm quite simply just going to take a pair of snips, normal snips, and if I can get that side on like that, I'm just going to snip that off. So that's basically will now sit. That will now sit nice and flat on that board. So that should give us a nice straight level playing field. What I forgot to mention was the coil. So the cable comes off the coil, and I was suddenly thinking perhaps that's why that was there. But actually you'll see in the picture that the cable goes underneath, nips just underneath there to secure it, and then it solders into the bottom here, which is the L1. So we'll get on and do that. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the spindle. Basically, we'll let that fall off a minute. We'll get one of these screws in. The blank wants to go towards there, so basically we'll put that. We'll go left-handed on this one. We'll just get that started off. Holding on. So we'll get the other screw in roughly the other hole, which is perfectly lined up right this second. Let's see if it's magnetic. It's just about hanging there. Sorry I'm leaning away from the camera, but see the... Right, so that's both sides of that in. So we'll get that fairly on there. Remembering we want to nip that cable underneath it at some point. So it's just a wee touch loose. So that's the first part. So fix the magnet to the white plastic component by adhesive, then fix the secondary coil to the magnet. In those exact words. So the secondary coil will be this one. So here's the magnet. Okay, so this camera didn't get any of that. Okay, so what we've done is we've put the two screws through the holes there, one at a time, and they self-tap into the component. So we've left it loose at the moment so we can get that cable underneath, and then we'll tighten it down, clamp it down. So the next thing we want to do is basically the magnet needs to go on there like that. Now they've got some sort of, oh I see, this just looks like an orange band, but in the video, that's in the picture rather, that's on there like that. So fix the magnet down, and then we need to fix the coil onto the magnet with these two wires coming off, and they will eventually solder into L1 here. No polarity, plus or minus, doesn't matter, just solder them one in each. But you will need to scrape the thrum, as it says, to get the paint off. I find flicking it with a lighter and blowing it out is probably the easiest way, so we'll do those one at a time in a minute once we've got all this on. So they've given us a glue gun stick. We'll probably either get the heat gun out or watch the bits flying out the bag, or just use a lighter, which is always more fun. Good old Zippo Mange lighter. So I'm just literally gonna flick this under the flame, warm it up. Take your magnet. Nice little dollop around the base of the magnet there. Perhaps give it another quick tease with the lighter. Pop that on, like so. And see if we can get that coil to stick down next to it. That magnet suddenly didn't slip on. I don't know whether well, it couldn't have contracted. It must have expanded or something. Basically, this coil is going to sit around another coil, and this part's going to spin, not the motor. So, yeah, that was a bit tight going in on there. So I've got the coil sort of on there, but we will give that a dab of glue. I think that coil was going anywhere anyway, but we will just put a little blob on this side. Didn't quite work. Right, so a little bit of camera there. That was just putting a bit of glue on there. So basically, we want to lift this, and they have that coming to the right hand side of that hole, and then just tuck in underneath there. Put my finger on there and then pull this one tighter. There we go, that'll do. So we'll tighten that as that is. Right, that one's bit. Remember, these are self-tappers, so they should bite. There you go, that one's bit. You're feeling them just tightening up underneath you. You don't, as long as that's not going to rock around. So now we need to strip and feed these into there. I'm going to get my magnifying glass. I'm going to feed one of these cables through, and I'll pull it back a bit where that bend is, and cut it about here. And you should be able to feed that in and solder it. Oh, we're going this one now because I cut it a bit shorter. There we go. So that's one cable in. Okay, so I can just about see that. There we go. So that's safely over out of the way. We're up to temperature. Let's grab a bit of solder. Oh, there's another one there. There we go. So that's soldered on. We'll come in with a weird angle for a snip. There we go. So now we'll get the other one done. Okay, I can see it poking through the hole of L1. So you're looking about where the tweezers are. Battery's low on the camera, so I'll solder this one quick. There we go. And that's, so far, so good. So we've now got the plastic component with the magnet, the coil, and the coil soldered in. Okay, just a quick lesson. So here we have the motor. It spins away, but funnily enough, we won't actually have the motor spinning, as you'll learn shortly. So if I connect this up to a couple of probes, I've set the multimeter to 20 volt. And if you turn it one way, minus, the other way plus. As you'll see, just by spinning this, let's try and, you can see the numbers moving. So the faster you can spin this, and we had 5 volts there. If I put a drill on it, we'd probably get a lot more, but it just goes to show that if you were to put a propeller or something, windmill type thing on there, put that out in the garden and connect it to a small battery or a USB 5 volts, that would actually generate electricity in the right windy conditions. So there you go for all you off the gridders. So back to the project. We have to lock the motor. I should insert the picture here. So now we're down to, I've already peeled the protection off this piece of acrylic, that's the base. This is our top piece. So I've started it off. Now when it says lock the motor, it doesn't explain totally, and the picture doesn't show, we'll come back to that bit. The picture doesn't show everything that you need to see clearly. But I did screw the screws into these two locations just to test it out, and there is a wee bit of movement on the motor, but not a lot. So that does confirm the suggestion that this is quite tight on here, so I'm gonna have to just put a drill in there and bore that out slightly so this can spin. So this is basically, when the second coil is on, this is going to spin round the motor, so the motor is going to create magnetic electricity, but it's not actually going to provide the rotational power, which is a bit strange considering as we've got a full working motor here. So I'll just finish peeling this. You can soak it in hot water and scrub it with a towel or something to get it off quite easily, or I think some people have used isopropyl alcohol or acetate. I just find a pair of tweezers, it's just as easy. And like so. So to lock the motor needs to come through here. So those two holes there, I don't know if you can see them, there we go. So you can see all the holes on there. So those two holes are going to take up the motor. Now I'm just going to double check some pictures. Right, we do still have other bits to do to this. So mainly it'll be soldering on the end piece, like so. The way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to get this lined up and just hang it so it's level, like so. So we'll come back to that. So the center hole for the coil to spin on and the end plate is all we need to do on there. So this now is simply a case of mounting. They give you 3 screws, you only want 2. And screwdriver isn't magnetised. So I'm going to lift that up slightly. I'm going to pop the screw in the hole. And then screw it down, but not tight. So try and get the other screw in. Again, just pop it down, but for the moment not tight. So I'm just going to give this, that's still spinny quite easily. Oh, I see, we're not actually locking, because when you screw those screws in before without the plate on top, it does stop that from spinning. So I thought we were actually going to use electromagnetic forces to spin it, but that's actually spinning freely now. So what I'm going to do is I may just slightly open this up just so it sits on there a bit easier. So basically we're going to have that. So probably not child friendly. They'll either knock it flying or hurt themselves on it. So if I wiggle that up a bit, but yeah, I might just open it up a tiny bit. Now that revelation, as you can see, that's spinning quite freely. So that's the motor on board. Now what we need to do with that, and I might just use my helping hands to prop that up in a minute, is we need some hot glue. And it looks like they've put absolute gargantuan amounts on here. And once we've got our 2 wires sprung out, that actually sits on top like that. I don't know if it sits on the screws, whether that will make any difference, but that sits on here like so. And then this goes in between it like so. So I'm guessing that coils could be providing the power to the top board. So that's that. We need to use the white plastic pegs to build the framework for this, or the pillars. And there's two copper pillars in here, short one and a longer one. They also go on the end of this board as a weight, I guess, counterbalance. So what should we do first? Lock the motor, throw them across the hole, and then fix the primary coil to the acrylic by melt adhesive. Okay, so if we take that, I'm just trying to see how the holes fit, so because we've got two holes at the end here. I don't know what they're for yet. Oh, they're just for cables to go through by the look of it. Yeah, fix the acrylic to the pillow using screws and cross the infrared into the hole. Okay, so if the screws are the way we've got them, in my direction, these want to go through that top right hole like that, and then this will glue melt onto here. So what I'll do is I'll put these pillars in. It looks like they have the thread going to the top, so the thread will go through these. Actually, we'll put these on here first so this stands up, and then the acrylic nuts go on top of the pillars like so. And being plastic, they should lock together quite well. That's one. By doing this, you will have made it easier to stand things up and work with them now. So that obviously goes in like that. So that'll be the almost a resemblance of the overall clock now. So now we have the, I think, the power board, the power module. We seem to have a bit of shrink tube. There's a screw, there's a PCB, there's another screw longer than that one. There's the other infrared part, a transistor, power jack. I think that's possibly a MOSFET power transistor, or two. A electric lytic capacitor, I'm not sure what that green cap is. We have a bunch of, there's another LED. So we've got that one and that one, so obviously receive and transmit, but we've already got one on the underside of the board. So, oh, and actually talking of this board, if we come back, whilst the board's in this orientation, this long one, which I'm guessing goes with a short screw, goes in here. Sorry, so there's the long pillar with the screw thread on top, and the short screw goes on that side. And then I'm guessing the other short screw, we've got two short screws, we've got two pillars, we've got one long screw, so I'm going to assume the long screws for the MOSFETs and the heat shield. And there's another, so I've got two infrared transmitters and one infrared receiver here. So we'll screw this other pillar in again. So that is now almost, and bearing in mind it's got to have the little bit of weight at the other end on there, our finished article. Okay, so quickly looking at this, follow the label to solder 8050, which will be the transistor there. So we'll do that. That is indeed an 8050. So just remember your shape on the board, shape of your transistor as always. Round part of the transistor to the round part of the silk screen. So we'll just pop that on. Okay, so next to it we've got a 50k resistance and a 470. So we have 3 470s and 1 50k. So that makes sense of 4 resistors. So we'll take the single, which is obviously going to be the 50k. I'm not going to check it. So the 50k goes in. Okay, so we've got our 8050 transistor here. We've got our 50k resistor here. We've got 3 470s to go on. 1, 2. We'll get all the simple stuff out of the way first. And 3. Okay, the B772, which I have metal side up. So the second one is a spare. So that will be welded on. So, oh, you can't see it. Ugh. Okay, so this will be soldered on. And then you need to put the heat shield on, which feels like it's got a metal exterior but plastic. I did snip one of the legs. Could be really crap aluminium, to be fair. So in the way they've done it, because of the I put the heat shield on before I fit the part, so I can get it right. And you really haven't got a lot of wiggle room. I'm bending that down. Nope. So that needs to go in pretty much. You haven't got a lot of room on these. And I've done that the same way they have. I've got the majority of the space here. I mean, you could put the cooling fin on so it goes that way, which will give you longer legs, but it's not how they've done it in the picture. So I'm going to take this out of here. Yeah, there really isn't a lot there, but that's how they've done it in the picture. What I'm going to do is try and bend these right at the very end. And however that thing goes in is how it goes in. So that's, I know it's a bit crude, but it's actually holding that in place. So you can't see, I'm going to solder in behind the they have some massive holes on these pads. They don't need to be so large either. It just guzzles even the solder. As you can see, the solder actually pours through into the other side of the leg. So that is now soldered to the board. What I'm going to do is be a bit naughty. I'm going to cut these front fins off. Like so. You don't have to do this, you can do your kit however you want to, but that's how I'm doing mine. And then we can fit this a lot easier. Now I've got a short screw and a long screw. I don't think the short screw will go all the way through all the components, so I'm guessing it's going to be the long one. But we'll see. But I don't think the nut's going to mate to it once we've got the width of the transistor and the board. Or it might just make it, you know. Don't know why, but I'm really not expecting this to work. But then I've done that with a lot of kits and they've come out fine, so you never know. There's always the odd one that trips us up. There seems to be too many intricacies for this one for me. So that's that part. So L1 will be the coil again, I guess. Okay, so we've got our 222 cap. We've got our B772 power transistor or MOSFET. Tighten a bit. 470 UF cap, 4 resistors, a transistor. Okay, so we've got the power cables in, so we'll just solder those down. Like so. Just snip any loose bits of cable off. Like so. So we now have the wires for our motor connection and our power connection. So that one, power one, will connect to the little barrel jack plug. So now we need to wire in the infrared. Now the outside terminal is minus and the inside terminal is plus. And this one, unlike the other one which it tells you to wire back to front, this one long leg, the long leg of the infrared part soldered to the positive. So our ground link on the motor goes to the red dot, so green goes to the red dot on the motor. So now we've got two more connections, that infrared and the coil. When I say the coil, okay, so I've got the motor in front of me, I've got the coil, it's gone through one of the holes. So these two little holes in the middle here and the two screws seem to mark centre actually for the edges of the coil. So if you get those two little holes just inside of it for top and bottom and then get it in the middle of the screw heads, it's absolutely blooming perfect. So is this warm yet? It's warm, it's getting there. So we just wait for the glue gun. Bloody telly. There we go. You can see that spare MOSFET. We've got quite a few spares. Got spare LED receiver, transceiver, whatever. Right, let's try this glue gun. I don't know where my new one is. There we go, it's on its way now. So I'm going to put a decent blob on here. Just literally, it's not really working, is it? Let's try again. Get a little blodule into there. Get that roughly into position. Hold it down. Oh, I don't like how much is on the inside actually. Okay, so this is being a pain. 4 little blodules in the 4 corners, so to speak, north, south, east, west, I guess. And sit this on top. And when we've got that in place there, we can put a bit around the outside. I can hear a tank. If you can hear a loud throbbing in the background, that's a tank up on camp somewhere. But they're definitely moving their toys about. So that's basically the other coil in place. So that gets soldered to the power module, or this bit. What was I looking for? Oh yeah, the top half. So let's just try that over there for fit. I have bored this out a tiny bit, just so we get a better fit over here, and then that slides lovely. So that bit's actually done. Okay, so when I say the coil, this part of this has to go to L1 on that power board, so that will probably be next. And they've already been cut back, so it doesn't matter which side of which these go in. So what we'll do is we'll just connect these two, because we do need to connect this LED up as well. So these two cables coming off the motor can go in either side of these two L1s, which is going to be trickier than I thought, so we'll take that back out of there. What I'll do, I'll poke one through, bendy down like so, and then try and hold it in the helping hand. So you can just about see that wire poking through. So let's grab our solder. I want that down just a wee touch, because there's the paint on the thrum, as they call it. Oh, I've actually soldered it to there now. Okay, so that's far enough away. I've got heat on there. Let's just bring the solder in, like so. You know, it could be a bit of haze on the camera screen. It did get left up here last night. So we just want to snip that little bit of pigtail off, like so. Let's get that second one in. So we're now working quite confined. So as you can see, the second one is now poking through nicely. I want to try and keep it over this side a bit. There we go, that'll do. Let's get the solder on it. Jobs are good in. Right, so all we need to do now is wire this infrared on, or wire glue, solder the cables in for it, and then we're connecting everything. So the motor, or this board rather, will just glue down onto the base. I can't get the picture. So this will glue down onto the base. There is no screw hole or anything like that. Quite simply is just gonna, this is gonna fix onto here like this, and then the board will just glue down somewhere adequate. So the next part is the infrared. So we'll do white for positive and black for negative. So white long leg, black short leg. Let's move that out of the way a moment. Okay, so slightly tricky since I've soldered this board to the motor. I should have probably done this bit first in hindsight. So LED plus, let's get these close together at least. LED plus white, LED minus black. So let's get a blob of blue tack on those just to hold everything down, and then we'll turn this over and solder those two in. There we go. So that's probably almost the last soldering. We've still got the motor wires and the power connector. Right, talking of motor wires, we know the green goes to earth. Actually, that's not the motor wire, is it? Yeah, it is. So green's ground, so that goes to the red dot. Okay, so we've got the red dot on this side of the motor. So the green goes in there. Okay, that's definitely soldered on. So now for the other side. So we're on the blue one now. And that's all do. So that's the motor powered up. That's the LED in. Or the infrared. I think we're pretty much there apart from the power guy. So we're going to need to find somewhere to mount the board down, which we'll do in a moment because we're going to struggle a little bit now for placing things. So that'll have to go there like that. So this LED, I think it wants to go on the inside hole. There's obviously more than one design to this board because there's two holes here, or more than one purpose. So that's the LED there. So that will read this one as it spins round, presumably. So yeah, they're pretty much in alignment. So that's right. Don't know if it's far enough away or close enough or what, but so power connector, glue everything down, and we're done. Moment of truth. Okay, so for the last bit, the VCC connects to the back leg and the ground to the middle leg, it says. So we've done red as VCC, so that wants to go to this back peg. Let's just make sure that's all the way up and bent across like that. So bring the solder in. Actually, if we bend that the other way, we can have it along the back of the there we go. We have that up there like that. We can solder all that to the metalwork. Just like so. And middle leg, so let's see if we can hold that there. Yeah, we can. So let's tidy this wire up. We'll get that one into the middle leg. A pair of tweezers would be helpful here. Again, bend it down along the length of its leg. And apply solder. Like so. So technically, if I put power into this, we should get a reaction. So let's fit this on. Get some power. Okay, so I've checked that the spin area is clear. Let's plug some power in, and nothing happens. So first thing I'm going to do is a quick check on the voltage. Okay, so what's happened here is we followed the instructions which told us to solder onto the middle leg, and what we actually want to do is solder onto this back leg. So we're going to remove that minus cable, or negative, ground, whatever. And we're going to relocate that one to the rearmost peg. This is why I do these guides. It's things like this that the instructions don't tell you or are wrong. And you might just give up and think, oh, sod it, that didn't work. And I try to do my best to figure them out so you don't have to. Okay, so I've rewired. So hopefully this time we should get the magic. See if we got a full spin. Yeah, pretty much. So, and powering up attempt number 2. 3, 2, 1. Oh, there she goes. Oh, look at that. Let's turn some lights out. Oh, JC is impressed. I suggest you plug and unplug this from the actual USB port because that is spinning around really fast. Oh, I'm so chuffed with that. So that's the LED spinning rotating clock kit. Quite a simple build. We haven't finished it yet as I say this, so let's turn the lights back on and let's finish our build. So okay, so to start with we need to locate the base unit onto this. So we're going to pull this back off again quickly. You just wiggle it and ease it up gently. You don't want to put too much stress on that. I can't believe how that coil sends through the inductance, sends the power up. That's amazing. So the 4 plastic screws that we saved from earlier. Okay, so here we have it. I do need to figure out how to set it. We do have different type patterns. That's quite cool. So I'm just randomly pressing buttons at the moment. I can't find where to set the clock. These are reprogrammable, but again, how to do it is another story and another video. So that's the clock, it works fine. We do need to figure out how to set it, and that's just awesome. As I said, unplug it from the USB plug and not on here. I do need to glue down those last few bits. The glue gun should be hot because it's been warming up while I've been gibbering on. So basically I'm just going to find my glasses. I just put a little bit underneath there to hold it in place while I spun it up. Oh, there we go. Bit of an airlock or something inside it. So a big splodge of glue under there. You're just going to sit that board on top of it, like so. Then the same with this power connector, you just want a decent splodge underneath the power connector. That's getting really hot and bubbly in there. And then let's unplug it actually, which I can't do. There we are. So we'll just glue that down. Put a bit more around this edge. And that is the completed product, so we'll just plug it back in. I would put a finger on there when plugging it in. So just to show it working once more, quickly. And this will be the end of the video for the moment. I need to figure out how to set it. There we go. So for the moment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.